Found out my parents left everything to my brother in their will, so I stopped helping with their bills and extra expenses. A month later, Mom texted me, "The mortgage is due, no greeting, no small talk." I simply replied, "Maybe you should ask the son you chose." My name's Jake, and if I ever had doubts about where I truly stood in my family, they vanished the day I stumbled across my parents' will. It wasn't some emotional family meeting or a big dramatic reveal. It was pure accident. Dumb luck, really. A few months back, I was at my parents' place, the same house I'd been helping them keep for the last 5 years. I covered their mortgage more times than I can count, paid for groceries when things got tight, fixed whatever broke around the place. I was basically their unofficial safety net. Meanwhile, my brother Eric did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean it. No job, no effort, just endless lounging while our parents coddled him like he was some fragile prince. Apparently, that loyalty ran deep. That day, my dad asked for help sorting through some paperwork, bills, forms, random legal stuff. They never really handled that kind of thing themselves, so I didn't think twice. Then I saw it, a folder labeled Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament. It was sitting right there in the pile, practically begging to be noticed. I hesitated for a second, but curiosity won. I wasn't snooping for drama. I just figured, after years of helping them stay afloat, I had a right to know how things were set up. So I opened it, and the moment I read those pages, my stomach dropped. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, the savings, every asset they had. My name appeared exactly once, in some throwaway line about how they loved both their sons equally. Yeah, right. Equally. As if that word meant anything when they were handing everything to the one person who never lifted a finger for them. I sat there in stunned silence, realizing that the people I'd been bending over backward for were planning a future where I didn't even exist. The betrayal hit like a punch. They'd made their choice, and it wasn't me. I must have gone quiet for a while because my dad eventually poked his head back into the room. "Jake, what's taking so long?" he asked. I didn't hide it. I just held up the will and looked him dead in the eye. "So this is how it is? Everything to Eric? After everything I've done for you?" His face went pale for a second. Then he sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Jake, it's not what you think." "Really?" I said, "because it looks pretty damn clear to me." I listed it all. The bills, the mortgage, the repairs, while Eric sat around doing nothing. My dad shifted uncomfortably but didn't say much beyond, "It's complicated." That was it. 2 empty words meant to shut me up. No apology, no explanation. Just the same expectation that I drop it and keep being their financial crutch. But I wanted to hear it from both of them, so I called for my mom. When she came in and saw the will in my hand, she looked guilty, at least more than my dad did. But her excuse made my blood boil. "Jake, honey," she said softly, "you don't need the inheritance. You have a good job. You're independent. Eric, well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That was the moment something inside me broke. They weren't oblivious. They knew exactly what they were doing. They'd spent years enabling his laziness, and now they were rewarding it. I took a deep breath, set the papers down on the table, and said quietly, "Got it. Glad to know where we stand." Then I walked out, didn't look back, didn't answer their protests as I shut the door behind me. For the first time in years, I stopped being their safety net. No more paying the mortgage, no more errands, no more fixing things they could have hired someone for. I cut the cord clean. The silence that followed lasted about 2 weeks. At first, I think they thought I was just sulking. Maybe they expected me to cool off, apologize even. But when the bills started piling up and no money was coming from me, that's when reality hit them. One afternoon, I got a text from my dad. "The property taxes are due." That was it. No "how are you?" No acknowledgement, nothing. Just a cold transactional demand, like I was still their personal ATM. I stared at the message for a second, almost laughing at how predictable it was. I typed back, "I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all." 5 minutes later, my mom called. I let it ring. Then came her text. "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk. Oh, now they wanted to talk, now that their finances were in trouble. I waited an hour before replying, "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now you can live with it." I thought that would be the end of it for the day, but of course, Eric had to get involved. Later that night, his text came through. "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I almost laughed. "Not a big deal, huh?" I replied, "No, I think you've got it covered, since you're the favorite and all." His answer came fast. "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money, just money. Easy to say when you're the one inheriting everything." I shot back, "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, my mom texted again, switching to full guilt trip mode. "Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're abandoning us." I actually had to put the phone down and take a breath. Abandoning them? I'd spent years making sure they were okay while they coddled Eric like royalty. And now that I was finally letting them face the consequences of their own choices, I was the bad guy. I replied, "You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I could practically picture my mom's shocked gasp. She always had a flair for acting like the victim. A few minutes later, my dad sent one last text. "We're not asking for much. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish, selfish." That word hit me like a slap. After everything I'd done for them, all the years of bailing them out, sacrificing my own money, my time, my peace, they had the nerve to call me selfish. I'd been the one keeping their heads above water, the one who made sure their lights stayed on, the one who quietly filled in every gap they left open. And in return, I got a raise from their future. Now, the moment I stopped playing along, I was the bad guy. I clenched my jaw, took a slow breath, and typed back 2 words. "I'm done." Then I turned off my phone. They had made their choice, and now they were going to live with it. The silence lasted less than a day. I knew they wouldn't give up easily, but I didn't expect what came next. The following morning, I woke up to a notification. My mom had sent me a bank transfer request. I frowned, unlocking my phone. She'd actually requested $3,500. No message, no explanation, just a number, the exact amount they needed to cover their overdue mortgage. I stared at it, half amused, half furious. They weren't even pretending to ask anymore. It was just assumed I'd cave, like I always did. I hit decline without a second thought. Not 5 minutes later, my phone started ringing. "Mom," I let it go to voicemail. Then came a text. "Jake, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I took my time before replying, "Because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric." Another call. Declined. Then another text. "We're going to lose the house if you don't help us." Oh, now it was an emergency. Suddenly, after years of treating me like a walking wallet, they were facing the consequences. "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter," I typed back. A few seconds later, my dad joined in. "You're really going to let your parents become homeless?" That one actually made me laugh out loud. They weren't broke. They weren't about to be thrown out on the street. They just didn't want to touch their savings because they'd gotten used to me footing the bill. I ignored every message after that. Then later that night, Eric decided to make it worse. "Dude, just send them the money already. You're making this a bigger deal than it is." I gritted my teeth. This entitled idiot really thought he could lecture me. "You mean the same money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it?" His reply was almost instant. "You know I don't have that kind of cash right now." "Oh, but it was fine when I was the one emptying my accounts, right?" "Guess you better figure it out then," I wrote. "You're the one they chose." No response. I went to bed that night feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The kind that comes from finally stepping out of a role you never agreed to play. But that calm didn't last. The next morning, while I was at work, my phone buzzed. It was the front desk of my apartment building. "Hey, Jake, your parents are here." I froze. "What?" "They said it's an emergency and you're not answering your phone." My stomach turned. They had actually shown up at my apartment over money. I took a deep breath, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Please don't let them up. I'm not expecting visitors. The woman hesitated. They're being kind of pushy. I don't care, I said firmly. They can leave. I hung up, already knowing what was coming next. Seconds later, a text. We're downstairs. Open the door. No greeting, no apology, just another demand. I didn't reply. Another text followed. Jake, we're not leaving until you talk to us. I exhaled slowly, stood up from my desk, and grabbed my keys. Fine. If they wanted a confrontation, they were about to get one. When I stepped outside, I saw them immediately. Mom, Dad, and of course, Eric, all standing in front of the building like some kind of intervention squad. Mom had her arms crossed, wearing that familiar disappointed look she always used when she thought she could guilt me into compliance. Dad's hands were jammed in his pockets, his expression hovering somewhere between frustration and disbelief. And Eric? He looked bored, like this whole thing was just inconvenient for him, like he wasn't the root of it all. The moment Mom spotted me, she went full theatrics. Jake! Finally, we need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. No, you need to leave. Her eyebrows shot up, genuinely stunned. Excuse me? You heard me, I said, my voice calm, controlled. You don't get to just show up at my home demanding money. That's insane, Dad scoffed. That condescending little sound that used to make me feel like a rebellious teenager. You're really going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I laughed, a cold, humorless sound. Petty grudge? Oh, you mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills, but not good enough to be in your will? That one? Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I just cursed her name. Jake, that's not fair. We only did what we thought was best for the family. Best for the family, I repeated, tilting my head. You mean best for Eric? Just say it. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then Eric finally spoke, his tone defensive. Look, man, I don't even want to be part of this. I didn't ask for anything. I turned to him, and something inside me snapped. No, you just take everything that's handed to you. You're 28, Eric? Get a job. His face went red. What the hell, dude? You heard me, I said, stepping closer. You want to inherit the house? Start paying the mortgage? You want to be the golden child? Start acting like one. He looked away, pretending to be fascinated by the pavement. Mom took a deep breath, her tone softening again. Rehearsed. Jake, he's your brother. I nodded. Yeah, and I've supported him more than either of you ever have. Dad's expression hardened. You're being selfish. I let out a genuine laugh. That's rich, coming from you. I gestured between them. You two decided Eric deserved everything, and I deserved nothing. And now that your plan's crumbling, you're trying to guilt me into fixing it for you. Not happening, Mom's voice sharpened, almost snapping. We thought you'd be mature about this. Mature? I raised an eyebrow. You mean you thought I'd quietly accept being betrayed and keep paying your bills? Because that's what this really is, right? Dad stepped forward, trying to tower over me the way he used to when I was a kid. We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I looked him straight in the eye and said quietly, I already did. For years. And you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lip trembled, and for a second she almost looked small again. We thought you'd understand, she whispered. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. I understand that I was never family to you. I was just a paycheck. The silence that followed was suffocating, the kind of silence that hums in your ears and makes you realize just how deep the cracks have gone. I turned to Eric, who was still pretending to be invisible, his eyes glued to the floor. And you, I said, my voice low but steady, what's your excuse? You had years to grow up, to figure things out, to contribute something. But you didn't, because you knew they'd take care of you. And when they're gone, what? You just expected me to step in and keep the lights on? Eric's head snapped up. What do you want me to say, man? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly, almost laughing at the absurdity. Right. You didn't ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened, then closed. Nothing. Mom tried one last guilt trip, her voice trembling. Jake, we're family. Family takes care of each other. I stared at her for a long moment before answering. Exactly. So why didn't you ever take care of me? She froze, no words, no comeback, just silence, thick and final. I let out a long breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here, I said. I turned and walked back inside, closing the door behind me. I didn't slam it, I didn't shout, I just closed it, clean, quiet, final. Before I even made it back to the couch, my phone buzzed. A new text from Dad. Wow, after everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us? I smirked and typed back, no. You abandoned me. I'm just finally accepting it. I hit send and blocked their numbers. I thought that was the end of it. I thought that by cutting them off, I'd finally bought myself peace. I couldn't have been more wrong. It took less than a day for things to spiral. I started seeing posts on Facebook. My parents had never been tech savvy, but when it came to playing the victims online, they were suddenly digital experts. At first, I laughed it off. They'd always loved airing out family drama to anyone who'd listen. But as I scrolled, my stomach twisted. The posts weren't just passive-aggressive. They were strategic. They were painting me as a monster. Mom wrote some sanctimonious post about how she didn't raise her son to be so selfish and how real family helps each other no matter what. Her friends chimed in, bless their hearts, with comments like, so sad what the younger generation has become, and some kids forget who raised them. Then Dad posted his own version. So-called families should never turn their backs when you need them most. We gave everything to our children, and this is how we're repaid. He tagged me, of course, and ended with, hope you're happy, son. But the real kicker came from Eric. He wrote a long post that could have doubled as a sermon. Some people think family is about money, he wrote, but it's about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents. Some people are just too wrapped up in themselves to realize that. Then he added, I wish some people could learn what it really means to be family. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How had it gotten to this? They'd turned everything around, rewriting the story to make me the villain, the cold, heartless son who refused to support his loving parents. The same people who had drained me for years now had the audacity to play saints. I'd been the one working, contributing, paying bills. I had sacrificed vacations, nights out, and my own peace of mind to keep them comfortable. And now they were crucifying me in public. I didn't react immediately, I sat with it. I thought about all the years of guilt and manipulation, all the times I'd been made to feel like I wasn't enough no matter how much I gave. And for once, I didn't want to respond with anger. I wanted clarity, truth. So a few hours later, I opened my Facebook, not my public one, the one I kept for people who actually knew me. I took a deep breath and started typing. I know I've been quiet for the past couple of days, but I can't stay quiet any longer, I wrote. My family has been sharing things about me that aren't true. They've painted me as selfish, ungrateful, and heartless. But the truth is, I've been the one supporting them for years, paying bills, buying groceries, covering house taxes, and helping however I could. I've done it without complaint, but respect goes both ways. Over time, I realized I was never seen as part of the family, just the person who made things easier for everyone else. When I found out they'd left everything to my brother in their will, it hit me. I was never their son. I was their safety net. So I'm stepping back. This isn't me abandoning my family. This is me choosing myself for once I read it over a dozen times before I hit post. And when I did, something inside me shifted. The weight I'd carried for years, the pressure, the resentment, the guilt, it started to lift. The response was instant. Friends, cousins, even distant relatives started reaching out. People I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me privately, saying they'd always suspected something was off. They offered support, sympathy, even understanding. For the first time, my truth was out there, not buried under my parents' guilt trips or Eric's fake self-righteousness. But then came the backlash. Eric messaged me first. You're a traitor. You really had to air all our business like this? You have no respect for family. Then Dad called, practically yelling through the phone. You've ruined everything, Jake. You'll regret this. You'll regret cutting us off. I didn't. Not for a second. I blocked them all. Again. And this time, it wasn't out of anger. It was out of peace. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Free from their manipulation. Free from being their emotional ATM. Free to finally breathe. The following days were quiet, peaceful, no calls, no guilt, no sudden emergencies that somehow became my responsibility. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I started to heal. I realized that sometimes walking away isn't cruel. It's necessary. So no, I don't regret cutting them off. I don't feel bad. I gave them everything I had. They gave me conditions. From now on, I'm choosing myself. I'm choosing people who see me for who I am, not for what I can give. And for the first time in my life, that feels like enough.